Someone asked me a minute ago in the audience, why did I think that Bill O'Reilly was not willing to broach this subject? And frankly, if that's all that was his crime, I would probably let him off the hook. The bigger crime of both O'Reilly, and let me go ahead and refer to my notes here briefly, O'Reilly and a number of others. You'll notice that most of these that I'm going to read, in fact, work for Fox News. And this is Brother Bill, if you will, here, posing as Abraham Lincoln. And that is his boss, Rupert Murdoch, and he's a very good likeness of Teddy Roosevelt, with his spectacles and all. So those are the two cover boys of my book, but they are not alone. In the book, I want to make this clear. I am a registered independent. Actually, at the moment, I'm registered as a Republican because I wanted to vote in the presidential primary, which in Arizona, if you register as an independent, you can vote in either primary, with the exception of the presidential primary. I'm not sure the logic, but that's politics. I'm sure it was some kind of compromise. So I re-registered as a Republican so that I could vote in the primary, and I'll probably re-register as an independent. Don't be too aghast by that, but I am not impressed at this point by what this Congress that we elected with a landslide majority in terms of the turnover in 2010. I'm not impressed with what they have done. And I'm not afraid to say it, and I appreciate you guys agreeing with that. So let me talk about those on the right. I don't waste a lot of time worrying about Media Matters or Politico or the Huffington Post. I could care less what they have to say, and I already know what they're going to say, and so does everyone in the room. If I were to name any topic, whether it would be the Second Amendment, immigration, birth control, abortion, traditional marriage, you all know exactly where you would have to fall to be in alignment with those entities, and also where you would not, in fact, want to fall because you're here tonight. So we all know what they have to say, and I really don't expect them to do otherwise, and I really don't care. I do have a problem, though, with those who purport to be conservatives and defenders of the Constitution will not stand up for it just because it's not popular or politically correct. Truth has no interest whatsoever in, as Lord Ballantyne will address, in consensus. There was a time, this is somewhat trite but true, that the entire world, or most of it at least, believed that the world, the earth, was flat. It did not change the fact that it was not flat. Truth has no interest whatsoever in opinions. Truth is, it simply is, and it's eternal. The law of gravity doesn't care whether we believe it or not. If you step off of a building, you are going to fall. It's the law, and it's eternal, and it's true. At least it's eternal on this, within this sphere as we know it today. So, getting to my list of those on the right in the national media. And again, I'm sure I've left many of these out, and I will tell you frankly, there are a few on this list that I'm not absolutely certain where they stand on this issue of the eligibility, because there's more what would appear to be clear ineligibility. But the very fact that I don't know tells me perhaps all I need to know, because I'm very focused on this issue. We all know there are a lot of issues out there, and we can't be dealing in all of them, and I'm interested in all of them, but I've decided to sort of focus on this one at this point in time. And it is very relevant, because when you have someone who would appear to be, and I say this because I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, that no one could be so unintelligent as to take the actions that he's taken, other than the fact that they have to be intentional. And we understand that his boss, if you will, is a man who has made his billions by bringing down world or national economies and destroying currencies, then it all suddenly makes perfect sense. So I believe, in fact, that this is not an accident, and here are some of the names of those that seem to be covering for him on the right. William James O'Reilly Jr., Laura Ingraham. I love most of these people and have admired them greatly, but on this issue they will not speak up. And not only will they not speak up, but like O'Reilly, they mercilessly mock any who will. Ask Lord Ballantyne what it's like to be mocked. when you are the lone voice out there, or the most prominent one on the planet, standing up against obvious falsehood, the myth of global warming. And the entire establishment media of the entire planet is mocking you 24/7. Fortunately for us in the world, he doesn't care. So, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck. I used to be Glenn's #1 fan. I'm not saying Glenn's an evil man, but he's absolutely advocated on this issue. Ann Coulter and Michelle Malkin. These are usually very feisty females that we all love and respect. Mark Levin, ditto that, except that he's a male. Carl Rove, he was never a conservative. Brett Baer, Britt Hume, Shep Smith, Neil Cavuto, Greta Van Susteren, Charles Krauthammer, Fred Barnes, Mort Kondracki, Bill Crystal, The Weekly Standard, Jonah Goldberg, National Review Online, George Will, Neil Bortz, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Reagan, and this is one of my more sad commentaries, Dennis Prager. Does anyone know if Dennis has spoken out on this issue? Once again, if he had, I think I would know about it, and we would know about it, but I'm very disappointed in Dennis for that. Political correctness has no bearing on truth, as we said. Walter Williams, one of my also favorite people on the planet, and I've communicated with Walter personally, and he's basically sort of distanced himself from the issue. Him of all people, I'm disappointed. Mike Gallagher, Dennis Miller, Lucianne Goldberg, Michael Medved, the editors of Red State, Breitbart.com, and even, and I even hate to say this, maybe someone will correct me if I'm wrong, I still love the man dearly, but David Barton, perhaps one of our greatest patriots and defenders of the Constitution, and yet I have not seen him speak out, and I actually approached him on the issue, these to his people, shall we say, and he was not interested, so I'm disappointed in that. Now here's there are more in Arizona, but I won't bore you with that. Those that have spoken out, and again, there are others. The two titans, if you will, on the internet were Joseph Farah, have been, continue to be, WorldNet Daily, WND, and then his buddy, co-founder of the Western Center for Journalism, Floyd Brown. They have been champions of this issue from day one on the internet, the new media as I call it, and frankly more relevant than the old media. And then in addition to that, Alex Jones has really taken up the mantle on this. Alex is a little out there in some issues, and I'm sure some people probably take exception to some of his positions, but he has been fearless on this issue, and I am appreciative of that. Eric Bolling at Fox News, I don't know how he did not get the memo. He's at Fox Business News, and so maybe that gives him a pass. I never heard Judge Napolitano address it directly. I suspect that he would be willing to, but guess what? He's no longer at Fox News, and so Lou Dobbs was willing to address this when he was at CNN. He did get the memo when he got to Fox News, and other than his first interview with Bill O'Reilly, in which he was mocked for his absurd position, it wasn't quite that bad. Bill was respectful of him, but did say, do you really want to be associated with that? Other than that, he has never mentioned it. Until recently, he has in fact suggested that the cold case posse just may be onto something. So the bottom line, as you can see, is that the vast majority of the prominent national conservative media have abdicated on this issue. And I used to call it MIA, but that would in fact suggest that they were only missing, perhaps of no volition of their own, but I now call it AWOL, absent without leave, which means they have abandoned their fellow soldiers in the middle of battle. And we are at war here for the soul of our country, for the Constitution, and it is no time to be either MIA or AWOL in this case. So, I've probably taken enough time from Lord Monckton, and I know you've come here to hear him, and so I won't take much more time, but I want to encourage everyone to understand that while we can't control what other people do on this issue, and by the way, do not waste your time or energy or emotional energy waiting for Arian Huffington or any of those people in the so-called mainstream media. Don't waste your time. They're not going to come around to it until it's absolutely been proven and he's removed from office. And then we don't know exactly how they'll try to save face, but they will not be able to And that'll be a glorious day. I'm sure you'll all agree. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, and I'll end with this, said that evil or silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to act is to act, not to speak is to speak. Each of us has a voice. Each of us has an email list. Some of those lists are long, others perhaps not. But when we forward emails that are informative and hopefully rational and reasonable, there's a lot of things we get that certainly are not. But when we forward emails that are informative and we believe to be true, and we've done our own homework, and we add our little testimony, if you will, to them, then we have just stood up. And many people will say, well, some of my friends are liberal. Well, send them anyway. They'll tell you if they don't want to receive them. I know that for sure. I haven't, frankly, had many people that have told me not to email. Several members of my family have, but I'm okay with that. I knew that going in. So, not to speak is to speak, and not to act is to act. I pray that each of us will, in fact, have the courage to simply say the truth. Joe Arpaio has uncovered much truth. It's out there. It's available on the internet. Anybody who wants to know knows, in fact, that while we still don't know where he was born, we do know that there is, at the very least, reasonable cause to suspect that it wasn't here in the United States. And I thank you and encourage you to continue to speak the truth and to not shy away from doing that, no matter what the political or popularity cost may be. Thank you, and God bless America.